Peace and blessings, Omo House. Hope all is blessed in your world. It is Sunday, I believe, the 26th of June. I cannot believe we are heading into the 7th month of the year. Wow, time is really moving, or the illusion of time is moving. Anyway, I am so full to overflowing right now. This morning, Omo House, had the honor to be with the Wash Park UCC community in Denver, Colorado. That is my home church, and it's always an honor and privilege to be in a community that is open to seeing and hearing about human experience, about connection and relationship in a really new and exciting way, because every community is not exposed to different cultures in ways that we might like or assume. And I think of Dr. Vincent Harding, who I think I mention often, who speaks about what happens when there is a lack of diversity and inclusion within communities. We pay the price for that. We lose out on the richness that is available when we're exposed to the allness and the richness of life. And then to cap that off, I had an amazing, unexpected conversation with a sister friend. And it just confirms to me that Spirit, the divine, is moving in amazing ways. If we are open to receiving and being with and being present and being conscious, the universe is moving wonderfully. I say that the universe is planting seeds and nurturing and designing and redesigning and creating in amazing ways. And I'm just blessed to be in the flow of that redesign, if you will. Anyway, I'm going to actually call this conversation the same conversation that I had earlier. However, I'm not going to do the readings that I did at the earlier service. I'm a lawyer, so no copyright infringement happening here. But I will share that there were a number of readings that I'd like to at least expose the listenership to, because I think it speaks, one, to where I hope this conversation goes, but more than anything, I think that one of the things that I was speaking about this morning was we as humanity, if we are to heal and move forward, there are certain conversations that we really need to be having. And so I think, these particular authors help us in having these conversations. So the first piece that I read from, and I want to thank a sister friend, Amy, for hipping me to this work. I am a big fan of Audre Lorde. One, because I graduated from Hunter College, and we all just loved Audre Lorde because she was a graduate from Hunter, I believe, if not a well-known lecturer, professor there at some point. But Audre Lorde has a way of speaking about issues in ways that reach deep inside you and sort of extract the brokenness and add some love and light and healing from that which was extracted, like that place. Anyway, I read from Sister Outsider, and, from what I can tell, this book just sort of is a compilation of all of her work that attempted to speak to some really difficult issues, and she does an amazing job. The other piece that I read from was from a poet that I was recently introduced to by Dr. Rachel Harding. And so if you listen, thank you, sis, for the introduction of Lucille Clifton. And so I read from one of her works called The Book of Light. And it was just an amazing piece with just an amazing finality. There's a punchline to the piece that I read that is like, so real and so appropriate to my own existence, which is, every day something has tried to kill me and failed. And I think, most women of color, most women, most marginalized people, most poor people, most LGBTQ folk can relate to, a world that attempts to, if not kill you physically, kill you spiritually and emotionally. And so, yes, making it through day by day, and that which tries to kill us has failed. So amazing. And the last piece that I read from was from Ta-Nehisi Coates, his book, Between the World and Me. And, the thing that's interesting about this work is that I've known about it since it came out, and it's not been out a very long time. But there was part of me that was reluctant to read the work because I believe that he is having a very difficult but honest conversation, and some of it dances on the edge of painful realities. And oftentimes I find myself in my day-to-day encountering microaggressions and systemic racism and sexism and trying to navigate around people's brokenness and trauma. And so, life is full, beautiful, but full in terms of designing strategies to survive. And so it's like, do I want to add one more reality to what I'm already, dealing with on a day-to-day? And so for a while I was reluctant, but today I said, you know what, it's time to, look in that mirror, because I think he is telling our story in amazing ways. So if you get a chance, all of those three writings are highly recommended. So with that being said, what did I want to share based on the experience today, without repeating myself? Well, I think the takeaway for me that I would share with the Omo House community is, one, we must all be diligent about being conscious, or as the slang says, stay woke. Because I think what I realize is, I myself consider myself to be a very reflective person. I get no joy in being asleep. So my entire life, even when I was crazy, there was a level of consciousness even in my crazy. And so to become aware of the fact that there were certain things that I was numbing myself about means that even I can be seduced and lulled asleep at times. And so I think this conscientiousness about being conscious is really, really important. Secondly, I would say that sadly, we must always remember that how do I say this? We must always remember that until there is a global or national healing, that we are all participating in a system that requires that we chop ourselves into little metaphoric pieces, if you will. So what I saw today as I was speaking to this congregation was this idea that often we have to sacrifice parts of ourselves. You know, that's what the world requires. If we are not diligent, you know. So one of the things that I said, you know, as Spirit was moving through me is that, you know, sometimes we're prioritizing. You know, the world may require that you work 80 hours a week as if your family didn't matter. And we know your family matters, you love your family, but sometimes it pulls us away from our families. You know, sometimes we are asked to not dress the way we want to, or not speak the way we want to, or, you know, not talk about certain things the way we want to in the fear that we may, you know, hurt some folks' feelings. And I think what dawned on me today is it's beautiful to care about people. It's beautiful to honor the human dignity of folk. However, if one begins to sacrifice parts of oneself or ends up sacrificing one's truths, then somehow we have failed to see our own divine purpose. You know, if I truly believe in my own sacred voice, there is a way for me to be 100% myself, authentically myself, and be that fully me, you know, be that as fully me. And I can do that in a way that honors your being. But I think what happens is sometimes the world is asking us to be responsible for other people in ways that may or may not be healthy. So I think what I'm saying is I have to trust that you have your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on, and that I don't have to tread lightly when I'm speaking my truth. If I'm coming from a place of love and I'm coming from a place of consciousness, then I get to be authentically me without worrying about you, because I trust that you will do the work that you need to do in order to hear me from a place of maturity, love, compassion, and all of that. So I think I got that today. You know, sometimes we begin to sacrifice ourselves without anyone even asking us to sacrifice ourselves. And I think that happens a lot with women. I think we are taught that from our mothers. Self-sacrifice seems to be something that, you know, the female gender seems to engender quite easily. You know, we often suffer from not practicing good self-care. We often will come home after a long day of work and continue to work at home, never asking for those within our own family structures to care for us, to tend to us, to nurture us. And so, you know, I'm looking at that self-participation in one's own brokenness. And so I think I took that away from today as well. And I think, you know, if I'm going to be honest, the last thing I would take from this conversation is to be courageous enough to look in the mirror and own our pain, own my pain. I think as people of color, as women as well, as a person who has lived a lot of my life on the margins, I think that there is this part of me that believes that I must be a superhero in my narrative. So I may not fly, but there's also a part of me that doesn't let myself cry. There's a part of me that doesn't allow the pain to go too deeply. There's a numbing that happens, as if I shut off those feelings, if I downplay those emotions, if I deny the horror when I hear stories like Sandra Bland, if I just keep myself focused on something else and don't really think about Eric Garner, if I allow myself to pretend or minimize how I feel about Trayvon Martin, if I just keep things status quo, then I can make it through the day. I can make it through the day. I can make it through the pain. I can make it through the fear and the horror. But the truth is, I think we pay a price for pretending. I think our bodies and our minds and our spirits register the terror, the angst, the horror. And even though it may not be on a conscious level, I think it moves through our system. And I wonder if these are the things that become the foundation for dis-ease and illness. And so for me, I think there is a newfound courage in naming a thing what it is. And I know I've spoken about this before, but I can feel it viscerally now in a new way, like in my flesh, that I can no longer be quiet. And I think there was a line that Audre Lorde said that, if you begin to silence and continue to silence and suppress, something will come from inside you and punch you in your mouth from the inside, or something like that. And I think that's what I'm starting to feel. There is nothing that demands me to be quiet except me. There is nothing that silences me except my fear of the consequences of my vocalization. And so the greatest thing that I got from today was, acknowledging that all those safe spaces that we think used to exist, they really don't exist. And so, as a prophetic voice, I can say, I am concerned about the consequences of me addressing, all of these isms and toxic ways of being, like something could happen to me. Well, the truth is, there is nowhere to hide. Something can happen to you anywhere. You could be sitting in a movie theater. You could be dancing at a club. You could be walking across a college campus. You could be driving your car and fail to put your blinkers on. You could be running from a convenience store with your hoodie on. You could be playing a game and someone doesn't see the game being played, the lightness of the moment. You could be knocking on a door at 1 a.m. after getting into a car accident. There's so much randomness to how life is unfolding, how human beings are interacting, how violence is being perpetuated against bodies. And so if it's going to be random, you might as well go out in full voice. And then there's also that part of me that says, you know, thoughts are things. So I create a space of well-being. I create an intention of life to its fullest, abundance, safety, courage, and all those wonderful things. So I place that into the universe. But I think more than anything, this is a time, this is the moment where we must be courageous. We must be faithful to the liberation voice. We must be diligent in being committed that our world be transformed, and that it is possible in our lifetimes that we can love one another, and we can be each other's keeper, and we can practice hospitality, and we can allow the spirit of life and love and generosity and creativity and all of those amazing life affirming attributes to be present in the here and now. And so I think that was the takeaway. These are the parts of myself that are coming together. This is the wholeness that I am sitting in a whole new way. I am myself. I am fully myself. I am affirmed because I am here. And no longer will I carry the burden of someone else's story about me. No longer will I be letting anyone's thoughts about my gender, my expression, my hue, tone, melanation, my movement through the world, how I talk, how I dress, how I flow. No longer is that my concern. I am a child of the divine. I am an embodiment of spirit. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And I really don't give a damn what your thoughts are about that. If you are locked in some perspective or interpretation about the color of my skin, or, you know, my gender body parts, or how much I weigh, or how I wear my hair, well, then you know what? I am keeping you in love and light, that you will get a little bit of consciousness to realize what really matters is beyond matter. But this is a spiritual thing, and so I know everybody ain't gonna get it, but there is a freedom that comes when you allow yourself to be whole. And in that moment I got, yes, like we are whole first. We are whole. We are born whole. That's my belief anyway. But it depends on what we focus on. We can focus on the brokenness, or we can focus on the wholeness, or we can say that they are both one and the same, and it is only our languaging that makes it appear different. But there is goodness in us. There is spirit in us. There is divinity in us. And I think all of the sacred books kind of point to that. So that's what I got. Thank you for tuning in, and may you be blessed this week. May you find the courage to put the pieces of yourself back together. May you have the wisdom to discern where and how has the world attempted to poke holes in your divine. Where has spirit sort of seeped out or been redirected May you see yourself. May you see the mirror of your beauty and your brilliance and your creativity. And until next week, I pray you peace and love and light. Peace, I'm out.